It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day for my gamers. Would you be one? Could you be one? Sound of life's plunder, but don't despair. This colony's breeding great robbers. Would you be one? Could you be one? If the 80% mortality rate works for you, for a few bucks a month you can sign up and have the Hobbs kill you. So let's make the most of another Sunday. Brew up some coffee and play it my way. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my gamers? Won't you please, please won't you be my gamers?
Hey everybody, welcome.
It's a beautiful day in the game.
Welcome to Mr. Hobbs' Gamerhood. I'm your host, Jason Hobbs, and today is no actual play. Believe it or not, we are returning to what started the whole show, which is my podcast. Yeah, man. Hobbs and Friends, episode number 74. I think it would be awesome. I'm going to introduce this guy so many times, he's going to be sick of it. I'm going to make him laugh so hard he's crying. Yeah, so this guy is this one dude that everyone loves to meet at the cons. He does all these awesome things that nobody even knows until today, even though he's been on 3 podcasts in the last 24 hours. So we got Levi Combs from Planet X Games on the show. All right, Levi, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm glad to be here.
So for the past half hour, more than that actually, Levi's been hanging out and just watching me struggle with technology.
Story of my life.
All right. So Gaming and BS, since, this is the pre-show where we're really just kind of hanging out and creating a YouTube video. The story of your life is watching me struggle with tech? What?
No, it's me struggling with tech.
Oh, I was going to say, I couldn't let that go by. So Gaming and BS, tell me if you hear echo, just like a slight double from Levi's audio.
Let's hope not.
That's right. And if we do, we're just going to go with it. Did you just hear a sound? No? Must be here. It's ghosts. I don't know if Sean's answering. It's just funny. I tried to call him and now he's in my Twitch chat. Okay, he doesn't hear. All right, Levi. So I didn't give you the best. Why don't you tell people a little bit in the pre-show here who you are and what you might be known for in the gaming industry?
Oh, well, I am a RPG enthusiast. I'm the creative head and publisher at Planet X Games. I do a lot of the writing over there. I write modules, I do fanzines, and I do some work for other publishers. I've done work for Frog God, Necromancer, Bloat, Mud Puppy. Just did an Arduino module for the Emperor's Choice guys. Several companies, but I love RPGs. Been around and doing it since about '83. OSR at heart, which is why I love this show. And then, it's pretty much it, man. Just another old pseudo grognard,
Pseudo grognard, I like that. All right, so you did great. Sean says it's that you're in an echoey room. I don't know if it's true because I can only hear it sometimes. It's not true. He's just confused. But that's why we love him. There's a few people out there. I don't know if it's just Sean and some bots, but we'll hang out for a few minutes and then we'll actually do the podcast.
Yeah, no worries.
So when you say 8, I'm not going to ask you what your gaming history is because I feel like everybody does that. So... All right, yeah, he says it's hard to tell, so most likely we'll be okay. I mean, I've heard way worse interviews on Gaming and BS, so if that's the bar, then we're okay. Oh, all right, man. Oh, Sean, I would have to tell you that Levi is not watching the Twitch stream, but Gaming and BS says that he missed you at Gamehole Con, Levi.
Oh, well, I'll be at PAX this weekend. I'll be TotalCon, Gary Con, North Texas. Let's hang out. Let's have a beer.
So Sean only goes to Game Hole out of all those, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, next year.
Yeah.
Let's plan on it now.
I like that. So let's talk about some of those, man. We probably won't get to them that much in the thoughts on the show. Yeah, like PAX. Like, what are you thinking about? What are your thoughts on PAX?
Well, PAX is it's not like it's not a con that you go and like hang out with a bunch of people and we have dinner and we kick back and we maybe play a couple games. It's not really that kind of environment. It's more of a trade show. It's kind of like what Gen Con has become. It's kind of become a trade show over the years rather than like an intimate con. It's a far cry from like a North Texas or like just hanging out at Game Hole or something. But there's lots of people there, and you get to meet lots of artists and other publishers, and there's a ton of games. And if you want to get in on the game, you can. But man, those rooms are loud.
Yeah, that's common at a lot of cons, except Game Hole, right? Because he has the small rooms are loud, but the big rooms have a larger roof. And Gaming ABS told me as our dork, he wanted to know what you thought about Game Hole Con. So tell us what you thought about Game Hole Con.
So this last Game Hole Con was the best con I've ever been to. It's my favorite con that I've ever gone to, and it's like impeccably run. Like Alex and all those guys, they do such an outstanding job, period, in making people feel welcome and making special guests feel welcome, vendors, people in demo row. It's a pretty flawless experience if you're a regular con goer. And there's just like a level of just comfortability there, where you can kind of let your guard down and just hang out. There's not a whole lot of pretentious people there. It's just a cool hang. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Game Hole, and I'll keep going. Even if they stop inviting me, I'll still keep going.
I've been a pretty big fan of Game Hole. I've been going for quite a few years. I'd say Game Hole in North Texas are probably my favorite cons.
Same. I've
been struggling with Gary Con. I did not go last year, which is crazy because I live an hour and 15 minutes away. But I'm going to try to go next year, right, in March or whatever. How many Gary Cons have you been to?
Just the one.
Oh, yeah, okay.
This last year was my first. I was a vendor and a guest, so it was a cool experience. It's very different than like a Game Hole or any of the smaller cons. It's cool to see everyone and to meet a lot of folks who are in the hobby. That you recognize their names from books that you adore, and whatnot. But and Luke is a super nice guy. Like he and his wife both, man. They treated me so good, and I just had a really really fun time. It's just big, It's not an intimate con, But as it ranks, I still want to go every year. I'm not saying anything bad about it. I did quite enjoy it, And it's in a beautiful area. There's a lot to do, a lot to see. You can get in the game with, Zeb Cook 1 minute and then Daniel Bishop the next, and then all of a sudden you're sitting at Brandon LaSalle's table, and you're like, how did this happen in one day? It's just a cool feeling.
Yeah, I agree. But I think Game Hole actually has more attendance than Gary Con.
Oh, I don't know.
It's not a big con. It's not like a Gen Con or a PAX or anything like that. But did you run anything at Game Hole? It looks fun.
Yeah. I ran a game every day that I was there, and then a couple off the books games at night. And then I got to play in a couple off the books games as well. So that was a lot of fun. And I run my own published stuff, or pieces of it, or hacked versions of it, or whatever works best for a con. I ran a play test. But then I got to play in a game of Delta Green, which I'd never played before, and that was a ton of fun.
Who ran that?
And then, Paul Smith ran that. I don't know if you know Paul, but he's one of those guys that when I see him at a con, I get so happy because I'm like, oh, he's a good player and a good DM. Keeper, GM, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. Just a positive dude that likes to have a good time and just 100% all around kind of rad guy.
What'd you think about the game?
The game that he ran. So I was exhausted. Like I
I bet, man. I bet.
Like it was like a whole day of travel, and then like a whole day of vending, and then running a game at night, and then it was like the game got started at like 11 at night. But I was lucky to be around like some people that I either knew from like social media like Twitter or Instagram, and then some people that I had gamed with before. So they kind of I'm trying not to fall asleep at the table, and at the same time I'm enjoying the game, but I'm so exhausted.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm ready to just lay down at the table and go to sleep. So yeah, it was awesome. I had a really good time, and he's a really good keeper, or whatever they call him in Delta Green.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it? It might be handler. Is it handler?
Handler, I bet. Yeah, that sounds right.
It might be handler. All right, so now Gaming and BS is saying he recognizes the echo. I thought so. I don't know how to fix that. It is handler, by the way. He answered as well. Awesome, man.
Excellent.
So we were talking about ShireCon and TotalCon a little bit earlier. What, how do those compare? Because I've never been to either. How do either of those would compare to North Texas, which is also smaller, right? I'm assuming closer to that than any of these other ones.
Yeah, so North Texas, that's about like 500 people max, maybe. So ShireCon's about 100 people, but everybody bails into this little tiny Connecticut town where when the lights go out at night, like it's pitch black dark, like you're way deep out in Holler. All the games, the con itself takes place in an old church that has been converted to a rec center, but it's got these great vaulted roofs with all the stained glass all the way around and all these old tables inside. So it's a really cool setting to have a con in. And Tom Wilson, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Tom is he's just an awesome dude to begin with. So he kind of sets the mood and the vibe for the whole thing with like his positive attitude and this just like insane love of gaming that he has. And then you just get all these folks from kind of the northeast section of the country who come, kind of trickle down from Massachusetts and Jersey and Connecticut, New York, and they come over the bridge and. You'll have like Eric Tenkar will be in one corner, then Michael Curtis will be over in another, and it's just a cool vibe, man. A lot of good games. Jeff Talanian's running in there, and Morgan Hayes running Jeff's stuff there as well. So any table that you go to is pretty good. Like there's some really good DMs there. So you just basically there's 3 slots. There's a morning, afternoon, and night slot. And you play those, and then whoever wants to hang out afterwards, we just hang out, eat pizza, and drink a little bourbon, and shoot bowls until midnight, 1 o'clock. And it's a good time. TotalCon is about, I want to say, roughly the same size, or maybe a tad smaller than North Texas, but it has a lot of the same vibe, which is that friendly. It's not. An industry, it's hobby kind of vibe. You know what I mean? People aren't tripping over themselves to sell you things. They just want to hang out, maybe hang out at the bar later, have beers, get some good food, and everybody just hangs out, kind of kicks it. We play games for 4 straight days. It's really cool. The promoters are just genuinely sweet people.
Who runs that TotalCon? Do you know?
It just changed this year. I'm not sure exactly how it all breaks down this year, but last year it was Angelia, Ben Gerber, Jen Gerber, and Angelia's husband. They again all extremely nice people. But it was just like a great cast of people there too. Like Alex Cameron was there and Jeff Talanian. You had Skeeter was there, Ian, Rocky, Jim Wampler, Tim Kask. It was just kind of a cool group of folks to just, if you're going to sit around and play games for 4 straight days, that's a pretty good start right there.
That is. So while you were talking, like some of the echo went nuts and then it stopped. And I'm not sure what happened. But I
Might be
think
the interview that never sees air.
it was great. Those cons sound great. One of these days, I'll move. Maybe, like I say, we'll move over where my daughter lives, and then we'll go to all those. That'll be great. We got El Hernandez in here. Is that somebody that you know or no?
Oh yeah, that's my best friend, who's also he's done. If you look in those books behind you, those phylactery books, he's done some art in those. But he does those save versus disbelief cartoons in the back.
Okay. Yep.
That's him. And he's done the cover for Magic and Shit. He did the cover for Vulgar Display of Magic.
Oh, nice.
He's a very, very talented artist.
Well, thanks for joining us, my man. Sorry that the echoing was going crazy, so you were like, oh, this is the worst. Yeah, I don't know if the audio is going to be all right. I'm not actually recording yet for the podcast yet, Sean. So I'm just trying to figure it out. That's what I thought, too. The audio may be okay, Levi, for the podcast. I'm not sure. We won't know until I actually record the actual audio.
We'll find out the hard way.
I guess so. Because you even froze for a second. And I mean, I never had these problems until a few months ago. I don't know what's going on. My CPU is pushing harder than it normally does for any of this as well. But we're just going to do the best we can.
That's why they pay you the big bucks, my friend.
Oh, that's right. Someone told me once that they wanted to get involved and get a cut of my YouTube proceeds, and I said, "Hey, no problem, man. You owe me $20."
Welcome to the game industry.
That's right. Exactly. All right, Sean. I appreciate that. I turned the tracks on, so hopefully when the MVK file comes out, we'll be able to do that. I hope all you guys don't mind hearing me talk tech with my mentor, Sean P. Kelly. I did say MKV, didn't I? Or did I say MVK? Son of a biscuit. I don't know, Levi. Dude, I just want to draw maps and create cool shenanigans. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For characters to play in.
I do.
You a mess, he says. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. I am kind of a mess, though. I'll give you that. All right, so I think all of you people who actually sat through robotic Levi echoing and twitching there for a second, I think we'll actually try to do the regular interview, and I'll record for the podcast, and well, you sound good now, and I don't know why that is.
Hearing. Can you say that again?
Oh, that's the sound I heard earlier.
Is that your Siri?
Sure thing, carrot, you're welcome, ! Carrot, happy to help. Did that answer your question?
This Alexa's going off. All right, I muted it now.
Alexa, how do I write a good adventure?
You've asked me that before, Jason. Check Goodwin
Have
Games.
Zeb write it.
Oh, shit. All right, so I'm going to do the introduction for the podcast, and then we'll actually go through this podcast stuff. If anyone can sit through all that and actually has questions, oh, no shit. Nola Burt is here as well. Do you know Robert? You remember Robert from Gamehole, Levi? Robert Nemeth, did you meet him?
Which Robert who?
Nemeth?
If I had a face to put with that, I would write. I'm so much better with faces and names.
All right, so pick a middle-aged white guy with a graying beard. He's not bald, but he's ponytailed. I'm just kidding. It's a joke. He told me that I was supposed to ask you this one more question here. And then if anyone, what's your favorite 1970s eco horror movie?
Oh, eco horror movie. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Eco. Not echo. That's a different thing.
I think it's pretty hard to beat Piranha. Because it's actually a good movie. It's not just a grindhouse or exploitation or B movie. It's actually a pretty solid movie from end to end. I mean, if we're counting Jaws, it's obviously the GOAT, But let's just put Jaws to the side and say no. We're not going to count that because it's in rarefied air. But my answer would probably be Piranha or maybe Grizzly. Grizzly is another one of those movies it's not a bad flick. It's pretty good. When you finally sit down and wrap your head around an 18-foot grizzly bear when you're around, like, wrecking shop, then yeah. But piranha or grizzly,
All right. There you have it, Nola Burt. Oh, wait.
or maybe Roar. Roar is like half documentary and half like actual movie. If to anybody listening, if you have not seen the movie Roar, you have to watch this movie. Like, actually, one of the guys in the chat, El Hernandez, he turned me on to this movie back when he came to visit me in Alaska, and we sat down, the whole family sat down and watched this movie, and we were just, maybe it was the whiskey, but like we were blown away by like how insane this movie was. So yeah, piranha, grizzly, and if you get a chance, Roar.
All right. You should send me. Maybe I'll put that in the show notes. There's a place on the bottom of the outline that I sent you that we can write in show notes and stuff. If there's something like that, maybe we'll talk about it on the podcast. If not, people will just wonder why it's in the show notes. All right. So all you guys in the chat, either on YouTube or on Twitch, if you have questions or anything, just go ahead and write them in. I probably won't reference the chat during the podcast, but we'll have a post show in 40 minutes. Holy cow, if you can stay up that late, Levi. And my wife doesn't like, time for bed, I'm watching Netflix, and unplug the internet or something. We'll go then. This is awesome. We're like two bald guys with squinty eyes and hats on.
We are the demographic.
Your beard, you got a longer beard. I just have like what's that guy? I don't know. Never mind. I can't even think what his name is.
It's just whiter. Just older.
Yeah, that's probably true. That is probably true. All right, so I'm going to click record, and then I'll try to remember my intro for the actual podcast. I think it's pretty much like all my other intros, so shouldn't be too tough.
Good, dude.
All right. So let me talk for a second. I'll reintroduce you. That's going to be way better than this time, though. I promise. No, I should not promise that because it's probably not going to be. All right, I got to write down the number that we're at when it starts, too, so I don't go over 40 minutes or I might break the internet. All right, we're at 27:19, so at 27:30, I will hit the record button. Only 4 seconds, you guys. Like I say, if you have any questions, throw them in the chat, and I'll try to work them in. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Hobbs and Friends. I am Jason Hobbs, your host, and today I have a guest. If you guys are still listening to Hobbs and Friends, I appreciate it. I guess like every other show I have a guest, but only one this time. But he is large enough in the industry, not in size, easy buddy, that he'll make up for only having one guest. He's none other than the author and owner and head creator of Planet X Games. He has stuff like Phylactery, Magic and Shit, and lately Big Eye Chungus. He is Levi Combs. Hey, Levi.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here, man.
Was that a better introduction or too much?
Oh, wonderful.
All right, good. I appreciate that. All right, my man. So, can you start by telling me what Planet X Games, just like a quick boilerplate of Planet X Games?
Yeah, no, it's just a way, it's an indie game company. I started it almost 5 years ago with a couple of friends who could do all the things that I couldn't do. We do fanzines, we do adventure modules, we do stuff for Dungeons and Dragons, we do stuff for DCC, MCC, and the OSR.
Oh, perfect, man. That's awesome. So I put on here, how do we know each other? And I think we met at North Texas. I don't know if it was North Texas, because you weren't on Google Plus, were you?
I wasn't. I came a little too late for the Google Plus crowd, unfortunately.
I thought so. And maybe I met you on Twitter, though. I don't know. Do you know?
So the first time we met was at North Texas, but I already knew about your show.
Okay.
Had already seen your show, and I think we have a lot of mutual friends. So you were kind of an automatic follow on Twitter, and then you never had anything bad to say. It was always a pretty positive attitude, which is like kind of what I like to surround myself with on social media. So I think that's just how it kind of fell out.
I appreciate that, man. I like to be a positive force in the gaming industry. I'm making fun of somebody right now, but it's true. I really do like to be a positive force, but using that exact terminology probably was a reference to Sean P. Kelly, because that's what he has in his basement. All right. So anyhow, I appreciate that. And you too are a great positive force. All right. So why don't we talk? I don't talk about, I don't talk usually about like our gaming histories. But I do like to talk about what we've been doing in gaming. Do you have, I do my weekly, it's not really weekly, but like if this show was more than once every 6 months, don't do 6 months worth of gaming. But like, have you played anything in the last week or so?
I haven't played anything. I've written some stuff. I've sent some stuff off for play test. But no, I haven't actually played it. You know, that's not true. I have been playing Legend of Zelda on the old Nintendo Entertainment System, the first gen.
Yeah.
With my 6-year-old son, he is fascinated with the graphics on Legend of Zelda. How simple they are.
That's interesting. Yeah. Are you creating a new 8-bit graphic fan? Because that's 8-bit, right? 8-bit, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, we just we have one of those little here's actually one right here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's like one of those little Nintendo emulators. We have another one in the living room, and it's got Legend of Zelda on it. So that was always my favorite game in the 80s. That and Rygar. So it was just kind of natural for me to pick that back up. I was like, I don't remember anything. I'm not going to know where any of this stuff is, which was completely false. I remembered almost everything and just navigated around the whole map, no problem. Yeah. And we finished the game. We finished the game today, about 4 days after playing it.
Wow! And how long did you play it for the first time?
Oh, months.
I was going to say 4 years. I don't know. I don't know if I ever finished it, to be honest.
Yeah. But you know. It is what it is. But he had a good time. Like, Dad, go here. You know, go in that door, fight those guys. And you know, if it got if the hearts were blinking, it was too low in health. He was flipping out and running around the room. He had a good time. It was fun. It was nostalgic. So
I thought one of the coolest aspects of that game was always when you were at full health, you could like shoot your sword farther and it like blew up. Is that right, or am I wrong? Yeah, I thought that was
absolutely right.
It's like they already had the death spiral mechanic in there, because like like in some some RPG games you have this death spiral where things happen to you and you get worse and worse and worse until you die. I personally don't prefer that type of game, but it's interesting that they did it in that. Rygar has that too, doesn't it? Doesn't it have something like when you're at full health you can do something, but not when you're hurt?
Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, I haven't played Rygar in forever. I think you can something to do with your chain. I think your chain goes farther.
Yes.
Something. I don't remember. See? But those are my two favorite games. And of course, fantasy adventuring games. So, of course, they were my favorites. You know.
I was looking to see if I had still this zine up here because art is theft after all. But your Steal This Zine is a little different idea. Maybe. Why don't we talk about it? Why don't you tell everyone? Because I don't know if people who listen to the show already know who you are or not. But it would be Steal This Zine. What was the idea behind it? And tell me about it.
So there's, Abby Hoffman wrote a book, Steal This Book, back in the 60s, a counterculture book. And Steal This Zine is just kind of a riff off of that, They're not for sale. You can't buy them anywhere. I'm not going to give you. I'm not even going to give you one. You have to steal it. Now that might be like I might lay it down on the table and walk away if whatever. But most of the time, you have to steal it from me in order to get it. So I leave a couple copies out on the table, and if you can distract me and grab it off the table at a con, it's all yours. But someone else can steal it from you, and I wholeheartedly support them stealing that zine from me because we only made 50, and there's only about 30 out in the wild now. There's 5 that I sent to a guy in Sweden, so those are over there. The guy who did the map, Carl Sternberg, Skull Fungus on social media. So he's got a couple copies, but other than that, there's not very many of them out there, and it's like a fully produced zine when you open it up.
It's good.
It's a whole hex crawl with art and descriptions and stats, and it's not just something that I threw together. I mean, I probably could have ran a Kickstarter on that actually, But instead, I wanted to do this basically free zine, but you had to steal it. That's the whole thing. Now looking back, I probably would have. The whole idea was to steal it. I probably would have made steal this zine just all about thieves or rogues of some sort. That's probably would have been the theme that I would have went with. But I had this great idea for a hex crawl and this great piece of art, and I thought, oh, let's put this together and roll it out. So. There'll be 2 at PAX tomorrow, or sorry, this next week, this weekend at PAX Unlimited, and then there'll be a couple at TotalCon. There'll be a couple at GaryCon, and then the rest will go to North Texas. So if you don't have one, come steal it.
Yeah, everybody, you heard it, and you can't have mine. Maybe you can. Maybe I'll. Yeah. I'll
Steal
it. You'd have to come into my house because it's behind these, I think.
But by all means, if you see a copy, make your pickpockets roll and steal it from your friend.
All right, so I obviously got sidetracked there. It's been a while since I did this, you guys. So you're not playing nor running anything. You don't have a campaign that you're running for people or anything like that.
No, we just moved, so we have moved into a new area, so I don't have a local group right now. Not this week, but in the past couple weeks, I've done a couple pickup games online. There's been some DCC stuff, and I missed out on Bob Brinkman's Bog Beast game, which just from a scheduling conflict, it sucked. I really wanted to be in that. But yeah, just as soon as I get my roots in here and get my feet dug in, I'll go down to the game store and we'll get some players. But
well, online counts, man, because that's the majority of what I do. If I'm not at a convention, I'm pretty much only running or playing online. So that totally counts for me. And so that I have you here, I was going to try it. I've never actually played Planescape, and I think I heard you on This Old Dungeon say that is like your favorite setting or something like that.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I guess, whatever.
No, in the broad band of like all the old classic settings, it is my favorite for 100%. Like I love Greyhawk, I love Forgotten Realms, I love Ravenloft, but Dark Sun too. But there's something special about Planescape. Like I was just telling somebody about this last night. Like Planescape it's like where you have this great idea for it. Like they took the manual of planes and they're like, let's take this interesting book that is essentially wall of text kind of stuff, rules, and let's give it life. Let's breathe life. And then you have Tony DiTerlizzi's like beautiful ethereal art that just fills this book. And it's like the perfect meeting of Zeb Cook and Tony DiTerlizzi to create this gorgeous box set that has all the personality in the world and all these little snippets of lore and all these, they take a place like, the Abyss, we've all adventured there, we've written stuff for it or whatever, and they make it super interesting. They add in all these cool little details and give all this backstory and history to these demon lords. They throw in the Blood War. They have all this cool stuff that they throw in there, but they do that for every single one of the major planes. And then you have Sigil. Sigil's this awesome city that sits on top of this spire, and it's like it's basically a giant ring, and you could adventure just in Sigil and the Spire and the Outlands there. You could do that and never go to any of the outer planes. Like that is enough. Like that's enough to blow any of your players' minds alone.
For sure.
So it's just ripe. It's just ripe for adventures, ripe for exploration, fantastic locations, all new monsters, but it's the personality of the product that really sets it kind of in rarefied air and sets it apart from other settings.
That is awesome that you say that. What I think I'm going to do is set that slightly to the side, and then when we get to the topic, if we ever do, I think that actually fits in really strongly with some of the questions I had considering that the topic that I wanted to talk about. So that's fascinating. What I was going to do is trying to get you online to force you to run a Planescape game for me of some sort at some point. That's what I was going to try and strong arm you into. But
maybe we should do it in North Texas. We'll just have sit down, me, you, and David Beatty, and a couple other folks. We'll just sit down and we'll do a crazy Sigil Outlands 4-hour session.
Oh man, that would be so sweet. Let's do it, man. I'll get baited into that for sure. Who else is coming to North Texas? I don't know. We'll talk about that. Let's.
Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna change this to a weekly thing, and you and I will just get on here and talk shit online while everyone just listen. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so I should say what I've been playing. I have been playing Valley of the Manticore with some of my old crew that were my first online games from before Roll20 even started. So back in the day, before Roll20 was a online VTT called Tabletop Forge, and me and the guy who started that, and this Brian Tackle, the artist Craig Brasco, and Elliot Moschel were all playing. We played the One Ring, the first edition One Ring game. We played Fate. We played BX. But I mean, we played all sorts of stuff together. And then we kind of drifted apart. I think it was when I got, I got mad about his Burning Wheel hack and said that it was like slower than molasses. Sometimes I can be a little extravagant in my descriptions. And I don't know. Brian got sick of it, but then we all made up, and now 15 years later or something, we're playing Old School Essentials on Thursday nights in this Valley of the Manticore game. So
nice,
super fun. I also am playing in an Urban Chromarium set Hyperborea 3E game, which is interesting. I've been complaining about it to my buddies now for a little bit. And I talk about it a little bit on Random Screed, but we're playing Hyperborea, and we stream that here at the Gamerhood. So if anyone is listening to this and wants to see a Hyperborea 3E actual play, and then check that out. And then I'm still running my legendary Kalmata game once in a while. That I don't know if you've ever heard it before, Levi.
Yeah, well, just on the on the show. So
yeah, we. I think we're up to like session 75 that's been streamed or something like that. I ran it at Gamehole. I also ran it at North Texas. And I would say the 80% mortality rate is pretty close. No, not that bad. It feels like it, but super fun. We use OSE for that. And I played a whole bunch of... we played Chainmail, Mordheim, and Raven's Feast, it's called, and Michael Curtis ran Lord of the Rings, The Last Battle of the Alliance. These were all war games. So some of them we played on a actual sand table. This is when I was in Linthicum that I was telling you about.
Oh, right on.
So I played a whole bunch of, and I'm not really a big war gamer, but I had a blast because I just dove into it finally. I would always just be complaining like, man, if this was an RPG, I could do this or this or this instead of just playing, this war game like it was meant to be. But it was a blast. So that's what I've been doing, man. And so the last introduction piece before we get to the main topic is Everything About You from the Ugly Kid Joe song. I hate everything about you. What's one thing that about yourself that you haven't let the masses know on these other 35 podcasts that you've been on in the last week, Levi?
That I hate about myself?
No, just something about you. The hate part was a joke. It's really just everything about you.
Well, I was going to say I actually have an answer for that. I wish I could write less dense paragraphs. I'm actually working on it, but I really like the OSE style. That's a very terse, bullet points. But I'm trying to get away from writing 3 paragraphs when one paragraph will do. I think that's a rookie mistake that I'm just guilty of. And I'm working on it. And this latest adventure that we put out, this 3 Curses for Sister Sarah, and I did some contributing writing on that. It's actually Mike Lee's baby, but so I try to do a lot of that, like where I said, okay, well, I've got 3 paragraphs here that's basically saying the same thing over and over. Let me just knock it all down with 1 paragraph, and then just be a little bit more loquacious in my descriptions. So it's just something I'm working on. Like when I go back and read like Jungle Tomb of the Mummy Bride, the very first one, I'm like, oh, well, here I am tripping all over myself and, talking in third person and talking in first person. And, it's a mess. But, you learn from that and you move on and things have gotten much better since those days. But so to answer both those questions, something I haven't talked about and something I hate about myself. That's
nice. That's cool. I mean, it's not the real dirt I was looking for, but I'll take it. I like the self reflection. I'm all about that for sure.
Fair enough.
But I mean, it kind of goes in with the whole idea that RPG books maybe historically haven't really been that good of writing. Some of them. I mean, when you talk about the big ones, it's very good writing. Like, I don't know, I definitely like the tone and the aesthetic of Planescape. I've never played it in my life, which is another reason I want you to. But when we're talking about quality of writing, I don't think there's a ton of, no one's going to say that the DMG has a great quality of writing, right? Of first edition.
No.
But if, adventure-wise, if we could get better, and I think people are, I think it is becoming more of an art than simply
very much so.
a use, right? It's not just a guide anymore. It's actually like an artifact that we, and I find that's a whole fascinating topic on its own, honestly. But that's awesome, man. If you can learn to write through RPG writing and just becoming more terse, then you're going to be better at all writing, So that's awesome.
Yeah, I've I've really gone out of my way to like, I've taken a couple classes to where where I'm just trying to learn a little bit, just be better about things. The goal is to write like Jacob Hurst, that guy Vidorak on Twitter.
Swordfish Islands, you guys, if you're wondering.
Exactly, Hot Springs Island. Yeah, he's awesome. I love the way that he writes. I love his style of writing.
Very evocative.
Yeah, and just he has a real economy of words. So I'd really like to write more in that vein. I'll get there. But then you have guys like Casey Christopherson. I love the way that guy writes. Like he's another guy. He's not like he's not like Jacob, where it's like I said, a real economy of words, like Gavin with the bullet points. But what he writes is interesting, and it's structurally very, very good. So I always pick up his adventures. I always read his stuff, and I run his stuff. He's
David Beatty, talk about someone who could use an economy of words. But I love his writing. I love that he kept his voice in Weird Frontiers. Yeah. But anyone who has a 950-page RPG, probably, I think he would even tell you that it's tough to carry that to a con and run games. So
it's great if you want to murder somebody.
Oh it's great. It's This is awesome though. This is what the topic should have been, man. Is working on your. So when you take classes that you think is going to help teach you to write better adventures, what is that? Technical writing or creative writing or something else?
It's creative writing, just community college classes. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I end up writing stories about my son, or writing stories about like a childhood, something that happened to me when I was a kid, or writing a story about a dump truck that just drove by, but had something cool on the side of it. These are all things I actually wrote stories about, or about my like toys that I torched when I was a kid. Like just. You end up writing bizarre stuff because that's the assignment.
So when are these short stories going to get published from Planet X Games?
They will never.
These will never see the light of day.
Yeah, there's one that got published. It's actually the first thing that ever got published of mine. It got published in a magazine called Wandering Storm. It was called The Cost of Cool. It was about me torching my Star Wars figures because I wanted to be cool with this friend of mine. But anyways.
Interesting.
That's the only one. But, those things help. They help. Again, when you talk about finding your voice and keeping your voice, they help. They help you find it. Maybe a little slower for me than it is for other people, but that's my process.
the cost of cool, man. That's I think a lot of people could definitely relate to that.
Yeah. This guy was my friend, and he was cool. I was not. I desperately wanted to be cool. I was about. 11, 12, something like that, right on the verge of like discovering like really cool music, but still being a kid who like kind of played with toys a little bit. and these Star Wars figures that had meant so much to me as a child. I carried them around everywhere in my little Darth Vader case. We all had one, and we just one day we just torched him, and he went home, thinking, all right, we'll see you later. And here I am left with hammerheads in the dirt with half of a melted head, and I'm like, what have I done? It just taught me a lesson about kind of like rolling by myself and just not worrying about what other people necessarily think, like having more of a stake in myself. But man, we really got off topic on that.
No, but that's awesome. Actually, I'm really fascinated by it because it's a really good. Also, I mean, some people would feel like it is a way, the journey, right, of someone changing in age from one tier to another and feeling like they have to remove these talismans of a previous age to become the next age. But I think you realize you don't have to do that at all, really. But now, but I mean, you see that in a lot of other societies or different things where they tell you to burn things. And maybe that's what your buddy was saying at the time. But
no, he just didn't want to burn his toys. He wanted to blow mine up with firecrackers and, what have you. So it was all the leftover fireworks from the 4th of July. So we're like, let's get rid of these. Or, hey, we're going to blow up your guys. Is that cool? I'm like, yes, please, be my friend.
Okay, yeah. So it was nothing cool like what I was saying. It was just this really sad story. Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
well, my bad.
Yeah.
That's something that I often do, though. I'll like find things inside a story and then expound on it. Like, oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What if it, I was an English major. That's why. Because that's what English majors do, right? They read books and then say like, oh, no, this is really what it's about. We did get far afield, sir. All right. So so one of the things that I found looking at your products that I have, which I think is almost all of them, and the ones I don't have, almost every time you tell me, hey, find something you don't have and take it. So super kind guy, everyone. If you've never met Levi, you should definitely go to the Independent Publishers Union booth. Is that what it's called, right? Did I do it?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Check that out. And what I found is that I really think that your products, this is part of the questions where I talk about sci-fi and fantasy, and I think a lot of people have covered that, talking about that, why don't you tell me, what do you feel about sci-fi and fantasy? Is it okay? Is it bad? I mean, do you have any thoughts on it?
You mean like jamming the two together, genre mash?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
In RPGs, I guess. Yeah.
I 100% love it. Like I get it. Like when people don't like that in their games, but for me, I like all that stuff because what's that old quote about like technology at a sufficient level is indistinguishable from magic?
Yeah.
Same deal. I like it. I did the Barrier Peaks was like a seminal like super weird fantasy product for me back in the day. Like when I discovered that, I was like, this isn't exactly what I want, but it's kind of what I want. There's enough in here to where I'm like, oh, like my mind is semi-blown. Like I really like what's going on here. And then you get like Gamma World and you got MCC and there was a great book, a great role-playing game called Castle Falkenstein. Do you remember this one?
Oh,
yeah, it was more of a kind of a steampunk thing, but it was like a magic and technology sort of mixture. Then you got Eberron, and I think, and especially like when you look at like the work of like Errol Otis, like he really, there's a lot of that stuff in there, man. So and then you go all the way back to like Blackmore and stuff. So I think science fiction has a very firm foothold in fantasy, but again,
and it always has.
Yeah. And again, it's not for everybody, and there are some people who don't like it, and that's fine. But for me, I love it.
Okay, and I think
the better.
And that leads to what I was like really trying to maybe get a handle from your point of view is like, the first thing I ever read from you is Phylactery. I've seen that you actually did things before that, but I was like, oh, I can see what this guy's doing. He's got kind of like, you've taken the gonzo level for old school gaming, because some people would say DCC is or it isn't, and that's really where the gonzo is. But now we're not just going to keep it in its own little category. We're actually going to just like take a big brush and swipe it across all of it. You're not, because you're doing, to me, your stuff is definitely more gonzo than Gabor Lux or Greg Gillespie, or even like Skeeter. Well, although he has a science fantasy crypto wizard, so I guess that's not a good one. But what, like, is that where your inspiration from? Do you feel like that's always been there, or do you think that you've upped that to 11, or where do you stand in the OSR? I guess we'll try to narrow the sandbox a little bit on this discussion.
Absolutely. So when it comes to the term gonzo, like maybe I'm seeing it differently than everybody else. Like, but I don't consider like Greg Gillespie to be gonzo at all. Like,
He's
I
not.
consider him to be.
That's what I'm saying. But your stuff is. That's what I'm asking is like, how do you feel? Do you feel like your stuff is way more gonzo than his? And do you think that changes things, or do you think everyone should write like that, or does everyone have a place?
No, everybody should write the way that they want to write. Like they should. The most important thing I think with any like product that you're gonna sell for money, that you're not just putting out for free, is that it's genuine. Like it doesn't even have to like look good, but as long as it's genuine, that's all. That's really the most important thing that matters. Like, is this something that you would want to play? Are you willing to sit down and give out 4 to 6 hours of your time for something that you wrote? Does it stimulate you in that way? But when I think of gonzo, I think of like I don't even necessarily think of my stuff as gonzo. I think more of it as weird fantasy, like more along the lines of like Moorcock, or like the weirder Howard stories, or especially like Robert Rogers Lasney, who was a huge influence on me as a teenager. There was like the old Amber books. There was a lot of really crazy concepts in those books. But when I think of gonzo, I think of like Funhouse Dungeons, like what is it?
Teagle Manor.
Yeah, well, exactly. But it's more of a kind of a ghostly
Castle Zagig.
Yeah, I was thinking more along the lines of like White Plume Mountain is very gonzo. That's because there's a lot of stuff going on there that makes zero sense. In general, we love it because it's a classic and it's super fun. It has those crazy 3 artifacts in it. It's all a ton of fun to play. But it's a real like out there adventure. As far as like pretty crazy. There's I mean, without getting into specifics, like there are encounters in there that make this much sense, but it's still so much fun to play. So
that's a good question. Did anyone ever solve why in the heck that giant like aquarium places in?
I was just thinking of that.
Mountain?
Yeah. Like, what is that? Like, why is there like there's an ogre magi and he's just hanging out with this cool weapon? I don't know. It's really really weird. But,
okay. But we got to do this whole dungeon. We'll both go on there and do White Plume Mountain with them, man. Let's go. All right. Does that?
Yeah, but like another example of like something I consider gonzo is what's that guy's name? The guy who did Chult.
Wenger.
No.
Is that
Chult? Yeah, that's him. Like that's a pretty like gonzo. I mean, that's there's all kinds of pop culture references, and one thing doesn't make sense to the next, but he's got his own little thing going on there, and it's whatever. But like. That's what I consider gonzo. Okay. Like my stuff, I really consider more weird fantasy. Like the DCC also very weird fantasy.
Yes. So DCC, you do agree is gonzo.
I agree that it's weird fantasy.
Oh no, you're saying it's weird fantasy, but not gonzo. Yeah. All right, I like that. Well,
some of it could be considered gonzo, but especially like if you go and play like one of Kovacs's games, like
that's not even really DCC. That's just dumb.
No. I'm just saying Inferno Road alone is just so insane, but is you could call it gonzo, but it is pure fun. You're not going to get that experience anywhere else.
No.
That dude is a one of a kind American original, and there's nobody else like him.
Yeah,
he is firing all levels, all cylinders.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. I love Doug. Don't get me wrong.
He's just firing on all cylinders and is 100% genuine at all times. What you see is what you get.
That is for sure. All right, so like I mentioned to you, we were going to take this to a slightly different place that's completely different than that. I feel like you covered it. And I really like this distinction that you're talking about, weird fantasy versus gonzo. And maybe we'll try and push that through into the scene and beyond. So thank you for that. So I'd mentioned to you that I found this page that was talking about your Kickstarters. And well, why don't we kick it off by you telling me about Sister Sarah's finished up, right? 3 Curses. But you got another one that's going to hit the scene. So hit us with the boilerplate on your new product that's going to kickstart.
Well, my idea was this year. My goal was to do 6 Kickstarters, or at least 6 products. It ended up being five Kickstarters and 6 products, because one of them had two things in it. But so closing out in December, again, the worst month ever to run a Kickstarter, but I'm going to do it anyways. Jeff Seifert and I have converted the second module I ever had, which is an occurrence at Howling Crater. Now, if I had been a DCC or MCC player when I wrote that, I would have written it for DCC and MCC, because it is 1,000% in that sort of vein of extreme weird fantasy. There's a lot of genre mashing going on there. It's like the tagline that I've been using for years to describe it is, it's like if The Hills Have Eyes had a baby with Plan 9 for outer space, and then they let the baby do like crack in a spaceship.
What?
That is the adventure you get when you get an occurrence in Howling Crater. It is, it really goes off the rails in some places. And if I had one product that was actually Gonzo, it would be that one. It is, well, so boilerplate description. Yeah, I mean, you have it's an expanded hex crawl along with an adventure that takes you into this irradiated this irradiated blasted crater where this depraved family of cannibal mutant folk live. And then you have an abrupt turn in the middle of the adventure where all of a sudden you're in the interior of a crashed spaceship, which this is my ode to the king of Gonzo adventures, Barrier Peaks. So I got to do a lot of fun things on this one. There's a lot of great imagery. There's some cool locations, fantastic NPCs, in my opinion. And then some really cool items, and because it's hard to do some of those genre mashings without everybody loading up on like rifles and jetpacks and stuff. So I found a kind of a neat little workaround of that doesn't rob the players of having cool things or really limit them, but at the same time they're not just they don't ditch all their old stuff to just run around playing Buck Rogers. So it's my favorite thing still that I've ever written. It's the one that I had the most fun writing. Yeah.
Like when you talk about it, I feel like I must have heard of the original that you did. Because when you were mentioned to me before, I was like, it sounded kind of familiar. So I must have saw something about it I did not get it when it first came out. That's for sure. And what was that written for originally? Really, when I was writing it, I actually wrote, it's a crazy story. I actually wrote it for a 3rd edition. Just because I didn't have very much experience with 5th edition, but I had a guy that converted it for me. We sat down and had several face-to-face meetings where we were just like, I don't really understand the new rules as well as I should, but I want to make sure that like these traps live up to what they should be, and the monster tactics live up to what they should be, and that this is very playable under the 5e rules. So there's a lot of talk about that. Written in 3rd, converted to 5th. But again, had I been a DCC player then, it would have 100% been a DCC/MCC adventure. So how much has it changed with your conversions with Jeff?
Yeah, so I did a conversion once before with my first module, which was Jungle Tomb of the Mummy Bride. The original came in at 64 pages, and that was with like 12 or 15 pages of 5e stats, which are just a 5e stat is almost can be sometimes be half a page, but a DCC stat is a paragraph. So when you compare 64 pages to the DCC version, which I think is 146 pages, there's a lot of new material in there. There's almost 1.5 more times of stuff that's put in there, because I had other writers come on. I had Diogo Nogueira came on and did an adventure. Skeeter Green, Casey Christopherson, Daniel Bishop, all these guys contributed, and then we did a new cover. Jeff did all the patrons, all the deities, and we did some new spells. We added in new magic items, and then I added in flavor text for every encounter, because that's the DCC way. They have a little block of flavor text there, So I've done the same thing with Howling Crater. Now there's some stuff in the first adventure that, looking back on, I'm like, I'm not necessarily that I could have done better. So I replaced certain encounters. I did things a little bit differently, but everything is geared towards the DCC aesthetic. It's geared towards mighty deeds and spell burn and all the cool little things that you can get your characters to do. There's opportunities built into this new adventure for people to exploit those things and have a really good time doing it.
Do you have a spell duel?
Yeah, well, like a really big inspiration before I started doing DCC and MCC conversions with Jeff was the Goodman How to Write Adventures That Don't Suck.
Yeah.
I don't know, anybody who's writing adventures should have that book, because Joe Goodman's entry, his chapter, is one of the best things I've ever read for what to do and what not to do for creating adventures. It's like great information. Like, this is what he looks for. This is what turns him off. What turns him on. This is the good stuff. This is the bad stuff. And he's very specific.
That's interesting. I don't even know if I ever got to Joe's. I got turned off by all of the other bad authors he had in there, like Harley Stroh and Michael Curtis.
Those guys are just terrible.
Those guys are terrible, and so I just couldn't understand anything they were saying, and so I just couldn't finish the book. I just put it away.
Get out of here.
It's probably on my shelf somewhere.
Yeah, and that's another thing about that book. Like, it is just a murderer's row of fantastic authors and creators. You've got Brendan and Harley and Michael, but then you got guys who aren't even in the Goodman, they're not even in the Goodman circle writing stuff. Like Casey Christopherson has a whole chapter, and I think it's about villains. So you get a real spread of talent. Like, it's a really good book to have. I don't know if it's still in print, but if it is, and you see it and you don't already have it, that's one to grab.
Don't steal that from their booth. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so we are getting close to time, but I really wanted to mention and talk to you a little bit about Kickstarters because, all right, so you're saying that you did, the first one was Jungle, Tomb of the Mummy Bride, and it looks like this was 2018 in September. And you got 288% funded. So I'm looking at this website. It's called Tabletop Analytics. And I mentioned this to Levi when we first started talking earlier tonight. And he did not know anything about it. And so this was the first thing you ever published, and you immediately just went to Kickstarter? Where did you take the jump from, hey, I'm running these cool-ass games in my basement, in my mom's basement, for all I know, to I'm going to kickstart something, and my first Kickstarter is going to be successful, and it's going to fund for $6,300, and 260 people are going to buy it? Where'd that jump come from?
Yeah, no, a couple places. The first one was my friend Casey Christopherson. Again, I mentioned him a couple times already. He already had a deep foothold in the business. He had at that time he had 80 plus titles that he'd worked on. He worked with Frog God, Necromancer, and the Trolls, and all kinds of folks across a wide variety of games. So he was the one guy I knew that was actively working in the hobby. So I reached out to him and I was like, well, do you think maybe Frog God would want to buy this? How would I do that? Who would I meet? And he said, well, the first thing you want to do is come to cons, meet everybody. There's one that's not far from you. Just come to North Texas. It won't be a big deal. But then he's like, you're wanting to sell this to somebody else. Is what's keeping you from just doing it yourself? I'm like, well, money. I don't have. He says, well, why don't you just use Kickstarter? And my best friend and his wife, they had run a couple Kickstarters beforehand that for a book and some other stuff. And they really seem to have a grasp on it. So I called up my best friend and talked to his wife, and she gave me some really, really good information on Kickstarter. So those two sources kind of helped me get my feet wet. And then I had Casey on the side going all right, don't freak out. Don't, this is what you need to do. I'll help you. I'll look at your stuff and help you get it into fighting shape. And it's going to be okay. Don't look at your Kickstarter every single day. I'll help you promote it. We'll talk about it. So that was the start, and it did way better than I ever hoped or thought that it would do. I mean, I don't know, it was like $6,000 or something.
Yeah, $6,300. And then
that's the thing, is I didn't even know anybody. I knew Casey.
Yeah.
And through Casey, he put me into contact with Matt Finch. He said, hey, Matt's got some stuff that he can share with you. And Matt was very giving with his time, especially for somebody that he didn't know and had never met. Jeff Talanian was another guy Casey put me in contact with. He gave me fantastic advice. And just, Zach Glazier and a couple other folks gave me really solid advice that all of it panned out.
So let me share with people a little bit about, the hobby is fantastic. And these people that say that, all those people are really considered mostly OSR type people, right? Or old school gamers, at least. And so to say that it's only occupied by all these bad actors or something is just completely ridiculous. We won't even get into that. So your first one was in 2018-09, 288% funded. Your next one was the first version of Howling Crater, Occurrence at Howling Crater, and that was slightly less, 214 backers. Same goal, $5,700. Now we jump up with the first issue of Phylactery. This is the first thing I got of 1,107% funded. And this was February of 2020. So 4 months maybe after you finished with the duration, the 31 days of Occurrence at Howling Crater, you do the zine, which only had a $500 goal versus the $2,200 goal, but you made the same amount of money basically on it. Was that, obviously it costs less per average pledge because there were 600 backers versus 200 backers. Was that the first Zine Quest? Is that why? Is that the whole different process and thought there?
It was Zine Quest 2. I wasn't around for Zine Quest 1, or I just didn't know about it. But for Zine Quest 2, that was my offering. And I approached that first issue of the Phylactery as an advertisement. Like, I was like, okay, well, I've got these 2 adventures out here, and a couple hundred people bought them. But I need to show what do I like? What do I think is a genuine sort of thing? What do I want to put out in the world? So I created the Phylactery and wrote it. Got some great artists to collaborate with: Ed Bickford, Adrian Landeros, Jay Shields, and it was. I didn't make it on the initial Kickstarter. I didn't really make any money. I dumped it all into art and then processing. But the price point was super low. It was $10 for 48 pages. It's a beautiful, heavy zine. It's nice.
Yeah, this is it, right? Isn't this number 1 right here?
Yeah. Yeah.
So those of you at home, sorry guys who aren't, this is number 1 right here. Yeah, this was my first experience of stuff that you had done. So sorry, go ahead.
No, and it was, it's all OSR, so it was really near and dear to my heart because that's my favorite kind of gaming to do. So, but I didn't make any money on it. It was just an advertisement to say, hey, this is the kind of cool stuff I like. Let me find my people. That's all.
And then you took all the money that you got to put it back into the next project, or no? This was a whole new. That was all just taken care of to pay for the Phylactery, or did you use it to pay for the next one?
After advertising and art and cover and paying for a graphic designer and all this different stuff. I didn't have much money left over from the initial campaign. I got a lot of copies printed, which was in hindsight was very good because it really caught on later. It caught on. I think we're in a 3rd or 4th printing now. So that's an issue it's real tight as far as content. There's some really good OSR content in there that I think, at least, some fun stuff. And it really gives kind of it's a sampler platter of stuff that I like and stuff that I want to write about. So,
is there a way to see which one is what is what printing?
So if you have 2 of them, there is if one of them has a thinner cover, a lighter cover.
Yeah,
that's the
is.
first printing.
Okay, so is this worth more money in the aftermarket?
I don't think any of it is worth any money at all.
All right,
There's no collectible market. Yeah.
So 3 months later, you did the next Kickstarter was for Escape from Skullcano Island, right? So this one it's not even been just over like a year and a half maybe from your very first Kickstarter. This kickstarted in $16,000, and it had not as many backers as Phylactery had, but still, I mean, your goal was 1,000. It was doubled, but the amount of money you made was 3 times as much, 300% higher. Do you think this was because it was for 5e as opposed to other things, or what do you think kind of went into the success for that?
There's a couple different things I think that worked in its favor. One, 5e, of course. Two, that it's about kaiju. And during that time, like the Godzilla movies that were coming out, there's a lot of hype around those. Mm-hmm. And then as Godzilla and versus Kong was building, there was a lot of hype around those. So I think that whole hype around those kaiju movies, Pacific Rim, all that kind of stuff, that was all still very much in like the pop culture zeitgeist. So I think that really helped it. The success on the previous 3 helped retain like people who had bought the first stuff. But then, I dipped my toe in the industry enough to where, like, I say the industry, I mean the hobby. Like, there's not really an industry. It's, like I said, more of a hobby. I dipped my toe in it enough to where, like, okay, like this guy's going to deliver. Like he's going to deliver his products, And then when I finalized it, it made so much more money than I thought it was going to make. Instead of just doing a soft cover, I went ahead and paid out of pocket for a hardcover for everybody. So there wasn't originally supposed to be a hardcover, and then
now it is.
People got a hardcover instead of a soft cover. Who's going to complain about that? So
yeah,
I added a ton more art. It just successful.
So you put it back into the business that actually help people feel like they're going to get even greater value in the future, really, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the idea. You want to keep putting out good products so people keep supporting, my crazy little tiny indie press company, like people have limited resources. They can only support so much, now there's more than ever. So
I'm fascinated by these numbers. I don't know if anybody else is, but I'm going to go. So next was, I skipped over something, but you did the Glimmering Crypt of the Iron King, which was also a 5e, which was 750 gold for $7,824. So 1,000%, which interesting. I think you still run this at cons. I think I saw that you ran that this year at a con.
I did.
Magic and Shit was 500 gold, and it made $10,000 with 716 backers, which seems like a pretty good success to me.
Yep, I agree.
Phylactery 3 was 11,000 with 615 backers. So, and then like your reprint of the Jungle Tomb for DCC and 5e was $22,000, but it was a $2,000 goal. So still another 1,000%. So what do you like, ray guns and robots? So I'm just kind of going over all the stuff that Levi has, and he has these all at cons that you can buy, and you can buy these at Exalted Funeral. You can do all this. So in the end, I mean, which of these do you feel like was your greatest success? Or I mean, how do you feel like, was there one that you wish you'd done different? Obviously, you're going to go back and do the other one to see if you can have the success you had with the reprint of Jungle Tomb of the Mummy Bride. That would be pretty flippin' awesome. So everyone listening, go buy that as soon as the KS comes out. But like, what do you think is the best that you did, or just comment on this?
I have my favorite, and then what I think is like technically the best. Again, my favorite thing I've ever written is In Occurrence at Howling Crater, that second one, which is getting the reboot for DCC and MCC in December. But like technically the best, I think the first Phylactery is like a really tight little supplement. Like it's it's still a little bit raw, but the content and the art, Ed Bickford did a lot of art for that, and Adrian Landeros, he nailed some pieces in there, and then there's some new things in there as well. Like that's I think that was the first issue where we started putting in the fake ads. Like there's in a lot of our books in the last couple of years, there's these fake ads, and more of those are coming. They're a lot of fun, and then you've got the save versus disbelief in the back of that, which is like a Ripley's Believe It or Not, but for weird fantasy. So that's a lot of fun. Those are great, and I just really enjoyed doing that one because there's a lot of ideas in there that came from my home campaign over the years, and that just I think that are really good pieces for OSR gaming. And each one, contains 4 new monsters. Each one contains an adventure. Some of them contain hex crawls in addition to adventures. You've got NPCs, you've got magic items, you've got all kinds of stuff. So they're a lot of fun, I think. Best adventure. The one people really seem to enjoy dungeon wise is Jungle Tomb of the Mummy Bride. Especially with the expanded material in the DCC version. I've gotten a lot of really good comments from players and judges alike on that one. So
yeah, that's just the DCC community. They're all nice. That's why
they're so supportive too. As long as they know that you're not calling it in and you're not faking it, as long as everybody's on the same page, they're super supportive. Like you cannot get a better fan base for RPGs right now. DCC is where it's at. I mean,
I agree completely. I've always been a huge fan of that community. So just to wrap up this Kickstarter aspect, and maybe we'll get some more information from Levi on like how he did it or what is 15 Kickstarters for $155,000. So seems like a really big success. I don't know. Bill always seems to think like Pacesetter is a really big and you're small, but it seems like that seems pretty successful to me, Levi. So good work on that, man.
Thanks. It's me, a couple of artists who've been around since day one, and a really passionate graphic designer, layout person who is very reliable. That's the team, So we treat each other very well. We try to share the love and spread it around, and we are a small company, but that's okay.
Oh yeah, I mean, success is success, and I think any way that you are going to measure that, you've definitely been successful. So that's fantastic.
I'm here for the games, man. Like,
I don't doubt that. Yeah.
Here for the hang and the games, and I'm definitely not here for a dick measuring contest.
No. And I mean, like we all say, I mean, if you want to make 100, tens of dollars, be in the gaming industry. So
there are people who are there are folks who are much more successful at this than I am, and I am very happy for them because it really is all of our dreams to be able to pay the bills of this stuff and do what we love, So
yeah, but you're not paying the bills. You have another job, a real job still.
So. No, but it pays some of the bills.
Yeah. Well, that's good, man. Yeah,
some of them.
I would not hold it against you. Some guys, I don't feel like. I'm not naming any names, or I don't even know if I have anyone in particular that are not probably shouldn't be selling their stuff. But your stuff is quality, and it's artistic and it's fun and it's from a good guy. So I would definitely say anyone should go and buy your stuff.
Well, that's a team effort, 1,000%. That's not just me. There's a lot of people behind the scenes, especially artists and layout, who are really, really cranking out some good stuff. So.
Yeah, and you do it fast, and like you say, you're very rarely behind, and if you are, it's because of printing. And these days, it's really behind with most people, so you're doing a really good job there too. All right, so I got one last very specific question for you. So you can choose. This is either your legacy or it could be your epitaph in the old school scene. What would your legacy be, or if you'd rather, what would you want your epitaph to be?
Epitaph would just, if it was my headstone, it would just be a hamburger, I think, maybe a taco.
You can't take taco. That's Alex Cammers. Or Taco John, I guess. Sorry.
Yeah, or Taco John. Legacy, I don't know, man. I just I don't really think about it, but I think maybe if I had to, it would just be that I made genuine stuff, that I wasn't just cranking stuff out for money, that it was always genuine, and it was always something that I would have wanted to play. Like if I walked into a game store having never published anything and I saw one of my things on the wall and I pulled it down, page 2, I'd be like, oh, I'm buying this because this looks cool. That would be it.
That's legitimate. Hey, I'm not going to ask like questions that aren't going to make you think. Hopefully, that's what we're here for. I want you to think. So I appreciate that heartfelt answer. All right, so I got to wrap this up a little bit. So let's say some appreciation and shout out to the patrons. Today we're going to do Jay Murphy. Jay has a new book for Ultimate System Rules USR, so go check that out. You can find him at Vanishing Tower Press. I don't know why I'm like giving these guys. These guys are actually patrons of mine on Patreon, but I guess I'm also going to give them some shout outs to their products. Kevin Madison is the Dungeon Muser, who does a really fun actual plays on his channel, Dungeon Muser. And then John Clements is another patron. He's newer, and he plays in my Kalmata game sometimes. So you guys and all of you guys on Patreon, thank you so much for patronizing us at Hobbs and Friends and the Gamerhood. If you want to be a patron, like, hey, Levi, it's all right, man. I don't mind. No, I'm just kidding, buddy. It's www.patreon.com, OSRN Hobbs. If you want to contact me, I am on the Twitters for now. I guess some people are bailing, but I haven't yet. I haven't even seen a reason to be honest. But at OSRN Hobbs. You can find me on YouTube at Jason Hobbs and Twitch at Hobbs665. And the Gamerhood Discord. I have my own Discord and love to have you on the server and get involved in some conversations. So, Levi, if anyone wanted to ask out your mummy bride, how would they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so my Instagram page is It Came From Beyond Planet X, and Twitter is Planet X Games CO. Facebook is just Planet X Games, and then you can find all my stuff over at Exalted Funeral. Or if you see me at a con, please come over. I have endless high fives, and I definitely want to meet you. Nola Bird, if you're still in the chat, we have got to sit down, and I have so many things I want to ask you, just based on your posts on Twitter. So if you're still in the chat, please let's do that next con.
And we that sounds great. You got any last words before we sign this off, brother?
No, I don't. I mean, last words. I mean, I don't know.
You don't have to. I like to surprise people.
Not really.
All right.
No.
All right. Stay alive. You got a job to do, everybody, and hopefully we'll get some more Hobbs and Friends out soon. Levi, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
It was a lot of fun, man.
All right. Hit the music. All right, everybody. So we're still doing the post show now. Nola Burt is in the chat. So is there anything you wanted to talk to him about in the chat? Does anyone have any questions? I think someone asked me some questions. So just running over the chat. Gaming and BS thought that you had some really, really high praise when you were talking about the Right Adventures That Don't Suck. He also mentioned that Hobby being great and that Matt Finch was nice. The Real Crapper Poopin' is here. Do you know who that is?
Yeah, that's my boy Nate. So Nate actually does all those cool those cool grindhouse style videos that are mishmashed up from all the public domain footage, like for Jungle Tomb and the Mummy Bride, and he did the new one for an occurrence at Howling Crater. Like he's that dude is a gem of a human being and a national treasure. He's out in Jersey, so hopefully I'll see him on Friday.
Oh man, that sounds exciting.
Yeah, he and his crew have a movie at the Kevin Smith Film Festival. So,
oh, that's awesome! Congratulations, buddy. I'm not going to call you Nate. I have to keep calling you the Real Crapper Poopin'. Is that your Twitter handle? He was very kind. He's been giving he gave a sub to Nola Burt, actually. So thank you for that, my man. We got Loot the Body Band, who's been lurking. He really enjoyed it. Is that another one of your guys?
No, it's just Loot the Body, man. They are internet famous, sir.
Oh, well, did you invite them here? How'd they find us?
Probably just from a post, I guess.
Oh, nice. Well, thanks so much, man.
No, they're awesome. Yeah, if you've never heard their music, they're amazing.
They followed the channel, so I appreciate that. I guess I'm gonna have to have you more often. We'll get some people following and stuff again. Yeah, they just saw it from a post, they said. So if anybody has any question, everyone's giving them some pops. I got to check it out, man. Sorry. I feel like I've seen your post from somewhere, but I don't know where. Loot the Body Band. I'll check out the music. I'm old and I'm soft. Have you looked at your Spotify music, or do you listen to music on Spotify or not? You know, they do the Wrapped for 2022. You know what I'm talking about? What did you, what was, what were your top 5, man?
It was all hip hop.
It was?
It was, strangely enough. It was Aesop Rock. It was Das Racist. It was, gosh, who else?
I don't even know any of those bands.
Maybe Run the Jewels. They're like, they're not super famous hip hop, but that's just what I've been into the last year. I go in these phases, man. When I was writing Howling Crater, I was really into like California surf music, which really like dovetailed into like horror surf music. You know, like where it's all horror themed surf music. And I was into that for like a year. And then it was like when I was writing the Weird West one, you know, that was like some real crazy stuff. Like, you know, like not so much country music, but like I'd listen to like, you know, 5 hours of Johnny Cash, you know, like where it was just like, you know, and then all of a sudden I'm listening to the man from El Paso, you know, like just all over the place. So,
I don't know if you can be bad listening to Johnny Cash. So
I don't know. I think I must have listened to somewhere in the neighborhood of like 100 hours of Misfits and Black Flag when I was writing Iron King. It was just like constant. Like that was all I was listening to there for like 3 months. Yeah. And if you look real close in Iron King, there's a reference to 20 Eyes, which is a song from the Misfits, of course. But
nice.
Yeah.
So you didn't ask, but I'll tell you like what my five bands were. I'm looking at it.
Well, I just stopped talking. I didn't have an opportunity to ask. But
that's how you get people. You don't give an opportunity.
Jason, what were your 5 bands, sir?
Here we go. The Black Keys.
One of my favorites.
Cage the Elephant. Cold War Kids. Imagine Dragons and Bishop Briggs.
All right.
I told you I'm soft, man.
No, I love the Black Keys, man.
That was my number one.
People rip on them all the time, but they have like 3 or 4 just unfuckable with albums. Like their albums are those certain albums during that certain time are just they're really good. Like almost all the songs are bangers. You know, just really good stuff.
Do you listen to Bishop Briggs or Cage the Elephant or no?
I don't. I knew who Cage the Elephant is. They had that one hit song like back in like 2011, 2013.
From that Borderlands game.
I just remember we played. I was bartending at the time, and we played it constantly.
No Rest for the Wicked.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That was actually like the theme or the introduction song from Borderlands. You remember Borderlands?
That, yeah.
I
remember
that.
But
I'm a big fan of Cage the Elephant because they remind me of Jane's Addiction, and I was like a huge Jane's Addiction fan back in the day.
Oh yeah. I remember Ben Caught Stealing.
I mean, I like their first album before Ritual de Wilchow, but you know. Anyway, Cold War Kids, you know them or no?
No, I know who they are, but they're not. That's not necessarily the kind of music that I'm into.
Yeah, probably not. I could see that. You seem too rough and tumble.
My favorite band is Queen.
Okay, well, nothing wrong with Queen, man.
I mean, they've got like 25 solid bangers from beginning to end that you can listen to and know all the words to. Like, they're great. No, I like a lot of metal. I still listen to a lot of metal, new and old. I was really, really bummed that The Sword broke up.
I heard about that.
Really liked The Sword. They're I believe it was their last album, High Country. I thought was like everybody talks about their earlier stuff and Warp Riders and all that stuff, all great stuff. But like, I really liked High Country. Like, I thought it was almost a flawless album. It was just like them kind of reaching into a new, I don't know, it's like again, just kind of like a different vibe, kind of rarefied air where you don't see many metal bands go. So just something different.
At first, when I asked you if you knew who Robert Nemeth was, you were like, I don't know who that is. But then you finally realized Nola Burt was the guy that you talked to on Twitter, didn't you?
What's Nola Burt?
Yeah.
When I see him, I don't think anything but Nola Burt. There's, because there's a lot of stuff that I think that we share in common. From RPGs to skating. Like I was always way into. I always thought skating was very interesting. It's a very cool culture, like especially the art around skating and again, skate culture is extremely interesting. So, he seems like a cool dude. So
he is a fun guy. I shouldn't say fun guy because that's a mushroom, but he is a cool dude for sure. He plays in games with me on Tuesday and Thursdays. Do you remember seeing the Black Keys at Memphis in May?
Yes, it's funny that he would ask that. Yes, Nate. I do remember seeing the Black Keys. It's hazy. It might be obscured in a cloud of mushroom dust, but nice. I most definitely remember seeing them.
Nola Burt also mentioned your your joint interest in movies.
Oh yeah. Like he's a big Svengoolie fan. I see from his posts, and Svengoolie's genius. Like I'm glad that dude exists. But he seems to be into a lot of the same sort of like pop culture references and movies that I'm into. So
we'll see if we can get Nola Burt into this Planescape game at North Texas. I don't think he normally goes. He lives in Upper Wisconsin, so he always goes to like Gamehole and Gary Con and some other obscure con in the middle of Wisconsin.
Yeah, dude. No, Bert, you gotta let me buy you a beer or a tasty beverage at the DCC mixer or something, man. Like I gotta pick your brain. Like he seemed like an interesting guy.
He is. He's a cool guy. All right. Loot the Body Band says you create some great sticky grindhouse content on your Instagram. I don't even know if I follow you on Instagram, man.
You should.
I should for sure. Dude, the older I get, the lazier I am.
The thing about my Instagram page is it's not really about games. It's just about things I think are cool, which is a lot of horror movies.
So is your Twitter.
Yeah, the same.
I follow you on Instagram. What am I talking about? I just get the two confused. I don't remember which is which at the time. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, Instagram's like a curated feed. Like it's like a peek inside your brain. Like this is what's going on. These are the things that you find interesting, and that's really what I like about the format of Instagram. Is you can go back and look, at certain times and go, oh yeah, like during Halloween, this is what he was watching. Like this is the sort of things that he thought were cool about Halloween, or the same about like anything, like I said, comic book art and just weird fantasy and sci-fi art and a lot of horror movies, but just movies in general because I'm a fan of cinema. Period. It just so happens that I like grindhouse and B movies the most.
Have you ever heard of Nerds RPG Variety Cast?
No. Well, what is that?
It's a podcast on Anchor. It's by a guy named Jason Connerly. And he talks a lot about movies, like old Grinder, all sorts of old exploitation movies and all things like that. He also talks about games a lot. He's just like an old grognardy dude that does a podcast called Nerds RPG Variety Cast. So I think you guys might enjoy some talks that he does. Like it's a little much for me, because I'm always comparing everyone to me, and he's just not as funny. But no, I'm just kidding. It's a good show. It's a very good show. It's an Anchor show, so that means is you'll also get a lot of call-ins because they're almost like radio shows in some ways.
Sure.
Because you can call in, and so you'll hear other people talk. He's known as the other Jason because in the community, I don't know who the real Jason is, but you might be looking at him. Here's my humbleness coming through again, isn't it? I'm totally full of shit, Levi. You should check it out, though, because I think you might enjoy
All right.
his talks. And anybody else out there who happens to watch this, Jason Connerly, he should be the main Jason, and I should be the other Jason for sure. So,
Another thing about those movies, I'm not just posting like random like posters. Like I've seen 99.9% of these movies. Like I'm not just not just filling up time. Like I really do have a vested interest in these things. Like
I believe you. I didn't think you were lying, man.
No, like when I post something about I don't know like Samurai Cop, it's because I love Samurai Cop. Like I love that movie. It's so silly, it's so ridiculous, so over the top that it. And they thought they were doing such a good job when they made it. They thought, oh, this is just
this is the best movie ever.
This is going to blow, Mel Gibson out of the water. Lethal Weapon's nothing compared to us. And then you get what you get, and it's like it's so bad, it's shocking. Like they really committed to it. So it's like the same with like movies like Troll 2 or The Room, where they thought they were making like the top cinema, and you get it, and you're like, "Wow, this is amazing."
Dude, I've never seen any of these. You're talking about shit I know nothing about. What we should do is I'll bring Nola Burt and Jason Connerly on, and then I'll just ask really dumb questions because I've never seen it, and you guys will know your shit, and it'll just be hilarious. That doesn't sound fun.
That's actually a really good idea for North Texas would be to have like a screening of like an old grindhouse film or an old like culturally significant. When I say culturally significant, I mean pop culturally significant like B movie, something like an Evil Dead 2 or Killer Clowns from Outer Space or Troll 2, something like that that's so over the top and ridiculous. You could almost do a thing like where you have a screening in a room and people can come and go. And it's just, all you're doing is it's like going to the draft house, Alamo Draft House. You're just, like you go see like a Rocky Horror, everybody's making fun of it, and your text messages are appearing on the screen, and so on. But
I would you could do that like on a YouTube channel that you just put on a big screen, and then at the same time having a guy's face there, and then bringing in people once in a while or something. I don't know. You could do text, but it wouldn't have to be no voice.
They do that kind of stuff at horror conventions, but I remember going to, this is back in like 2008 or 9. I remember going to this big music festival in Tennessee, and it lasts for like a week, but it's in July or June or something like that, so it's super hot outside. They would have these tents, and one of them was a movie tent you could go into where it was super cold inside. So you go, so you're on the verge of heat exhaustion anyway. So you would go in there and just lay down, and they would have like Real Genius playing, or have some sort of cult film playing, and it was just going on 24 hours a day for the entire time of the festival. And I thought it was so cool because people would just go in there and just chill. They would just go in there and hang out. Some people would just fall asleep on the ground, because it was so it was so cold inside.
Dude, we don't do Troll. We do Crawl, Sword and the Sorcerer, and
Hawk the
Slayer. Yeah, movies that were supposed to be
Beastmaster.
Yeah, or Beastmaster 3 or whatever.
Yeah, you could totally do something like that. I think it would be great, but that's something That's a Mike Battalato,
Gary Oliver,
Gary Oliver decision. So, but that'd be cool.
Yeah, so everyone come see us at North Texas and our new idea, but come to the lunch. Everyone should go to the lunch because you get to have lunch with all the special guests and hear all the crazy ass talk. You didn't go to it, did you, this year?
I didn't. I think I was running a game. Because most of my games went to 1 or 2 this year. I was doing early games. I'm still trying to get that vibe. Like, do I do them like at night? Do I do them during the day? Like, can't seem to win either way.
No, right, yeah. But you should. Everyone should go to the lunch, even if it costs you $5, because at the table I was sitting at this year, it was fantastic because you just got to hear like Steve Winter, Tim Kask, Darlene, and they were all just complaining about working in the TSR offices and stuff, and it was so fantastic because you're not going to get that kind of content. They're never going to talk about this stuff on podcasts, okay? So, but if you're actually there and you get to hear them talk about it, it was awesome. The stuff that went down at the TSR offices is just mind blowing to me.
That's a whole other thing. That actually one of the highlights of any con I've ever been to happened at Gamehole this last time. It was the night before everything kicked off, like Wednesday night or whatever, and I was just sitting around with them. No, it was before we all went out to Free House.
Oh, okay.
We were just like an hour before. And we were just everybody was just kind of sitting around, and Zach Glazer was sitting next to me, and Zeb Cook walked by, and he flagged Zeb down, and Zeb came and sat with us, and we had the most interesting talk about the Rocky and Bullwinkle RPG game, which he has a surprise credit on, like he wrote. So he told us the story, this crazy story behind it. But then I had to shoot my shot and ask him about Planescape. And to his credit, man, he just for like an hour talked about like the development and where these ideas came from and why it's so different from everything else. And I was like, please say more. Like I was just so enraptured by this, by a very frank discussion that he was having. He was a very interesting man, and you just hearing him talk about my favorite game setting. It was like dream come true kind of stuff. Like sitting at the foot of the master, hearing the old fables. It was really cool.
It is. It's awesome. I have not. All of those guys have agreed to be on the show. You were hard enough to get the technology working, so I couldn't imagine. It wasn't even you, though. It was me. That's the bad thing. Oh, God. I think I could rap here with you all day, brother.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. I knew we'd have a good hang.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We should do it again, and we don't have to record it. We can just hang out more instead of stopping at each other's booths for 5 minutes at cons.
I think I'm going to do less vending at cons, actually, and more just like
walking around and hanging out. Yeah,
just meeting people and just playing games. Like I said, there's plenty of places to get my stuff that I don't need to hawk it at every single show that I go to.
But don't you guys have a blast just kind of saying, let's go hang out at the booth again or whatever? Are you over it?
No, we do. Like when all six of us are, was it six? Yeah, all six of us are there. Like it's pretty wild. Like there's some personalities in there that mix pretty good. So.
All right. Well, I want to thank all the people who've been hanging out. Loot the Body, the band, Nola Bird RPG, the Real Crapper, Poopin'. Stop laughing. That's what he wants us to do. We're playing into his ploy. Gaming and BS. All the guys I appreciate. Oh, and El Hernandez. I think he took off, but maybe not. We're not.
It's late in Nebraska.
Okay. It's late. Not as late as it is for you, man. All right, so I'm going to cue this music, and we're going to head on out.
It's a beautiful day in the gamerhood, a beautiful day for my gamers. Would you be one? Could you be one? Out of that plunder, but don't despair. This howling is breeding great robbers. Would you be one? Could you be one? If a 80% mortality